What if the legacy that made him immortal also brought a nation to its knees? What if the voice that lifted millions through their darkest nights left behind a silence too heavy to bear? Chester Bennington was not just a rock star. He was the wounded soul of American music, the man who turned grief into an anthem and ache into a kind of truth. To the world, he was the force behind Linkin Park's thunder, raw, unfiltered, unforgettable. To his family and fans, he was the fragile heart beating beneath all that noise. At the height of his journey, his net worth reached into the tens of millions, powered by record-breaking albums, worldwide tours, and music catalogs that continue to generate staggering royalties. His awards gleam like fragments of a brighter universe, each one a reminder of the fire he carried inside. But behind that dazzling empire, behind the fortune, the fame, the thunder of arenas, there was a cost no one could see. A cost that would one day turn his legacy into a wound, a whisper, a memory that makes America stop and breathe a little heavier. And in that silence, his story begins. He entered the world not into comfort, but into the cold edges of reality. Born in Phoenix, Arizona in 1976, Chester Bennington grew up in a home where silence wasn't peaceful. It was heavy, painful, and often louder than any voice around him. His parents' divorce carved a deep line through his childhood, leaving him drifting between places that felt temporary, like rooms missing windows. He was small, bright-eyed, and yet burdened with thoughts too heavy for a boy his age. The world around him felt rough, scattered with dust, unanswered questions, and the kind of loneliness that settles quietly into the corners of a young mind. But even in that stillness, there was one thing that never left him: sound. Music arrived not as entertainment, but as rescue, a beaten cassette, a melody leaking from an old radio, a rhythm that felt like a heartbeat finally syncing with his own. Those early sparks shaped him. They taught him that pain could be transformed, that hunger for escape could become fuel for creation. And somewhere in that fragile, uncertain world, he whispered a promise to himself: that he would rise, that he would never again feel powerless, that he would build something strong enough to carry not only his own weight, but the weight of others like him. From those quiet beginnings, a fire began to burn, small, steady, waiting for the moment it would roar into something uncontainable. His rise did not begin with a roar. It began with a spark, a small, trembling flame inside a young man who refused to let darkness win. Chester Bennington stepped into the world of music, carrying nothing but determination and wounds he turned into fuel. In his early 20s, he worked ordinary jobs and recorded demos late into the night, chasing something he could not yet name but could feel calling him from somewhere beyond the horizon. Everything changed when a demo he mailed across states landed in the hands of a band searching for a voice unlike anything they had ever heard. That band was Linkin Park, and the moment Chester walked into the room, everything shifted. His scream carried fire, and his whisper carried truth. It was the combination the rock world didn't know it was missing. Their debut album, Hybrid Theory, exploded. Not slowly, not quietly, but like a meteor crashing into music history. It sold over 30 million copies, becoming one of the best-selling rock albums of all time. Suddenly, Chester was the voice of a generation lost between anger and hope, between silence and survival. His words became their shelter. Success followed him like a rising tide. Arena tours, global awards, collaborations with icons, a catalog that would one day be valued in the tens of millions. His wealth grew as fast as his influence. Royalties poured in from albums that never stopped charting, digital streams that carried his voice to every corner of the world, and performances that sold out within minutes. He owned homes that overlooked oceans, studios filled with instruments he once only dreamed of touching, and a collection of memories shaped from stages bathed in white-hot lights. But even as the empire rose higher, there was always a quiet shadow behind it. Chester poured everything he had into the music: the triumphs, the doubts, the moments of fire, the moments of fracture. And the more the world demanded from him, the more he gave. Not out of vanity, but because he believed that if he could scream loud enough, maybe someone out there would feel less alone. He built a legacy that looked unstoppable from the outside. a fortress made of sound, sweat, and survival. Yet behind the walls of that towering empire, something softer, more fragile, began to flicker. The lights grew brighter, but the silence behind them grew deeper. He had everything, yet lost what mattered most. At the peak of his fame, Chester Bennington stood in front of crowds so large they looked like oceans. Lights washed over him, thousands of voices rose with his, and every anthem he sang felt like it could split the sky. But when the music stopped and the arena emptied, he often walked into rooms filled with a silence no applause could erase. Fame gave him fortune, but it also stole his stillness. For years, he battled the shadows that lived inside him. Shadows born from childhood wounds, broken trust, and the pressure of carrying millions of hearts on his own shoulders. The world saw his strength, but he felt his fragility. Interviews hinted at it. Lyrics revealed it. Friends worried over it. And yet he continued to smile, continued to show up, continued to give more of himself than he ever kept. His relationships felt the strain. Long tours created distance. Endless schedules carved time away from the people he loved most. And though he adored his family, his wife, his children, the home he tried so hard to protect, he often felt like he was fighting a war he couldn't quite explain. He tried therapy, music, friendship, moments of peace that came and went like soft rain on a burning road. But the spotlight he stood under was brighter than anyone understood, and its glare revealed every fracture, every fear, every echo of a past that refused to loosen its grip. On July 20th, 2017, the silence finally won. America paused, fans froze, and the world lost a voice that had once carried them through their darkest nights. People stood in front of their radios, replaying his songs with trembling hands. Others gathered outside venues where he once sang, laying flowers next to candles that flickered in the summer heat. His bandmates mourned not just a frontman, but a brother. His family mourned the man behind the legend, the father who joked in the kitchen, the husband who tried so hard to stay, the friend who always offered a shoulder before asking for one. In the end, all the homes he built could not shelter him from the storms within, and all the applause in the world could not drown out the quiet he carried. Yet even in that final silence, something remained, something that refused to disappear. When Chester Bennington left, he didn't leave empty space. He left echoes, light, and a legacy that refuses to fade. His fortune, estimated in the tens of millions, became more than numbers divided among loved ones. It became a map of everything he built, royalties from albums that continue to climb charts, rights to songs that are played in moments of struggle and triumph, and creative works preserved like artifacts of a man who felt deeply and dared to share it. His voice lives in millions of headphones, car speakers, and late-night playlists. Fans still return to Numb in the end, crawling not just to listen, but to breathe. In every lyric, there is a thread of his soul, fragile, burning, honest. And through those threads, he continues to reach people who feel lost, reminding them that even pain can become a kind of strength. His impact stretches beyond music. Mental health organizations cite his story as a turning point in conversations long ignored. Schools teach his lyrics as poetry. Therapists use his songs to help young people articulate emotions they cannot name. And across the world, fans write letters to a man who is no longer here, but who somehow keeps answering through the art he left behind. His children inherited more than financial security. They inherited his gentleness, his humor, his hope that the world could be softer than the one he grew up in. His bandmates carried forward the mission they built together, not just to entertain, but to heal. He didn't chase immortality. He built it, quietly, painfully, one song at a time. And now every candle lit in his honor, every tribute concert, every whispered thank you becomes part of the living, breathing legacy he left behind. A legacy that reminds the world that even the most fragile souls can change everything. His story ends where it began, in silence. But this time, it is not the silence of fear or loneliness. It is the silence that follows after a voice has shaken the world, the kind that lingers like dust in sunlight, refusing to disappear. Fans still stand before stages he once owned, feeling the weight of his absence and the warmth of his memory. His songs drift through speakers like soft winds, carrying fragments of a man who once turned his pain into a bridge for others to cross. And in that gentle echo, he feels close, not gone, just quieter. From the empire he built to the lives he touched, Chester's legacy circles back to one truth. Even broken voices can mend other hearts. Even fragile souls can become giants. Even silence can become a monument. He rose from a childhood filled with shadows. He rose from battles no one fully saw. And in the end, he left behind not darkness, but a path. A reminder that the human heart can ache and still shine. From silence he rose, and in silence he remains. A legacy that will never fade.